Okay, so imagine you wake up tomorrow morning, go to your favorite mama, order teh tarik and roti canai, and the uncle say, "Sorry, dey, 8,000 ringgit, please." You laugh, you think it's a joke, but today we are diving into a reality where that wasn't a joke. Welcome to the wild world of hyperinflation. Today we're looking at what is it, the country it absolutely destroyed, and why Malaysia has built the walls to keep this monster out. Let's get into it. Let's establish the ground rules first. Dina, what are we actually talking about here? What is the official benchmark?
According to the IMF, normal inflation sits healthy at around 2 to 3% a year. Hyperinflation, however, is when prices rise by 50% or more in a single month. It is inflation going completely feral.
And it always traces back to the fundamental trap in monetary policy, which economics look at a core formula, which is MV equals to P.
M is the money supply, V is how fast it moves, P is the price level, and Q is the real outputs, the actual goods and service produced.
Here is the math of a collapse. If a government prints more money, M goes up drastically. But if the real output Q stays exactly the same because your factories or farms aren't producing more, the equation must be balanced. Therefore, the prices, P, have to explode.
Think of it like adding water to your Milo. More liquid, but the same amount of Milo powder. It doesn't give you more chocolate, it just makes the whole drink weaker. To understand how this formula breaks real life, we need to look at Zimbabwe in the late 2000s. Adam, walk us through what a normal day looked like for you.
I had to sprint to the market before sunrise just to beat the daily price change. By noon, a bag of maize could cost double what it did at 8 a.m. We stopped counting in thousands, then millions, then billions. My mother carried a literal suitcase just to buy basic groceries.
And why did the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe let it get that far? What was happening behind closed doors?
The government needed money desperately, so they ordered the central bank to just keep printing. Simultaneously, our agriculture production collapsed.
So, M went through the roof while Q went rock bottom, which meant that the price level P had no ceiling left.
Exactly. By November 2008, our inflation peaked at 89.7 sextillion %. We print a $100 trillion banknote, and it couldn't even buy a single loaf of bread. In the end, our currency died, and we had to abandon it completely. The core lessons: our central bank had zero independence. It did whatever the politician demanded.
Now, you might think that was an isolated incident, but let's fast forward to 2014 crisis in Venezuela. Patricia, you are looking at this from the government's perspective at that time. What was the rationale?
We truly believed we were protecting the people. In 2014, global oil prices crashed because Venezuela relied on oil for nearly 95% of our export revenues, and our income vanished overnight. The public was hurting, food lines were growing, and we needed to fund social welfare programs immediately. So, we did what felt compassionate. We increased the money supply to fund subsidies, and we legally locked in strict prices control.
But price controls don't alter the laws of supply and demand. What happened to domestic supply chain?
It choked because we capped prices, and local factories and farmers could no longer afford the raw materials to produce goods at the legal retail prices. So, they just stopped producing. Q dropped to zero.
And because you kept printing to cover the gap, M kept expanding.
And the results were catastrophic. By 2018, inflation reached 1 million %. Millions of citizens fled the country. Our currency, the bolivar, became less valuable than napkins. The institutions were entirely captured by political desperation. When ideology overrules basic economic principles, the people lose every single time.
This brings us back home. Malaysia has faced massive external economic shocks too. The 1997 Asia financial crisis, COVID-19, and the global inflationary wave of 2022. Tina, why didn't our currency spiral into the toilet paper zone?
Because Malaysia's economic architecture rests on three specific pillars: institutional independence, fiscal discipline, and economic diversification. Let's look at the first pillar. Bank Negara Malaysia is legally independent. Our Monetary Policy Committee adjusts the overnight policy rate, which is called OPR, based strictly on hard data, GDP growth, employment, and structural inflation metrics, not politically popularity. When global markets overheated in 2022, we raised the OPR to cool things down systematically.
That is the missing guard. In Zimbabwe, the central bank had to comply with whatever the president wanted.
Exactly. Now, Batrisha, consider our second pillar, fiscal discipline.
Right, because Malaysia's federal budget must go through parliamentary debate and legislative approval. And there is a legal ceiling, which the debt go to GDP ratio is monitored closely and currently capped around 65%. And a minister cannot simply order the central bank to print more money to plug a fiscal deficit.
And the third pillar is diversification. Venezuela's fatal flaw was relying almost entirely on a single commodity. Malaysia's revenue is spread across manufacturing, services, tourism, agriculture, and petroleum. Petronas is a major contributor, but it is not our only lifeline.
But wait, Dina, every time the ringgit fluctuates or weakens against the USD, people online start panicking about inflation. What's the difference?
Currency depreciation is not hyperinflation. Bank Negara holds over 490 billion ringgit in foreign reserves. We have the tools to intervene and stabilize exchange rate volatility without resorting to the printing press. Furthermore, Malaysia maintains a solid A3 credit rating with Moody's, meaning we can access international capital markets at highly credible rates. We don't need to dilute our currency to survive a storm.
Let's do a quick high-speed recap. 1. Hyperinflation isn't just things getting pricey. It's a 50% of more jump per month. 2. Remember, MV equals PQ. If you pump up the money supply without boosting real goods, your currency loses its power.
3. Economic disasters happen when central bank loses their independence to political pressure.
Fix your institutions and build your economic safety nets before the crisis hits. Because you cannot build a shelter while the typhoon is ripping off the roof.
5. The boring, bureaucratic walls of economic policy. Like parliamentary oversight, independent committees, and foreign reserves are exactly what keep our daily lives stable.
Hyperinflation isn't just a boring chapter in your microeconomy textbook. It's a real-world strategy born from poor policy decision. It's a wheelbarrow of cash, empty grocery shelves, and family losing their entire life saving.